Alrighty, welcome in. Today, I'm excited to have buddy of mine, Ren Collier, who's a senior trainer at On Track Fitness in Vermont. Ren and I have known each other for about a year now. Just social media friends, basically, is how it goes back and forth. But I was able to be on Ren's podcast a little while ago, and so we tried to give it a little bit of space here before he hopped on mine. But Ren, just a great strength coach to all ages, and excited to have him come on and talk all things strength training. We'll probably throw some other stuff in there, but that's going to be where he is absolutely an expert, and I'm excited to chat with him about that. So appreciate you coming on, Ren.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, happy to be here.
First, awesome. So first thing, before we dive into that, we were just chatting about it before we started. Like any day now, right? Baby number 2 is a coming. How are you feeling about that?
Excited, a little anxious. We've had one who's just she's 22 months right now, so they're going to be both under 2 years of age for a little bit. So expecting a little bit of a rocky transition, but excited. It's going to be fantastic. Becoming a dad is the best thing I've ever done with my life. I just love it. And yeah, I'm going to be a girl dad × 2 now. So
yeah,
it's going to be busy, but totally excited.
Yeah. I don't know what 2 kids is like. We just skipped right past that and we went right to 3, but we had multiple under 2, and I feel like there are certainly challenges, but it feels almost like the second kid is like, oh, this is familiar. Like you don't remember it, but you're like, oh, I remember that. And with the first, I feel like, and maybe other parents, can relate to this who have multiples, but with the first, everything's new. And so you're like, is that normal? Is that normal? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And with the second, you're like, oh, okay. Like that's not like, you're not freaking out quite as much. It's almost like the toddler is the more challenging when you're like this. And like the challenge of the newborn is you don't sleep a lot. So that's the real thing, is like, you don't sleep a lot, but the toddler is still like wants your attention. Like when it was just one, you could sleep. But
right. Yeah.
It's
yeah, absolutely. Now that, our first is, she's become a toddler. She just, she doesn't just stay in one place at all, at least not for very long. And, so it just presents a whole different set of challenges. She sleeps really well. Thank goodness. She sleeps through the night. It's very rare for her to wake up, but yeah, it's just when she is awake, you're just constantly following around. She's climbing this and running and trying to chase the dog around, whatever. And you're just constantly making sure she doesn't like injure herself or put something in her mouth that's going to cause some harm or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I feel like a lot of people talk about the hardship of parenting all the time, but it's incredible experience. From my point of view, it just, the good outweighs the bad by so much, and even when it is like tough like that, it's the love you have for that child. Just it's overwhelming. So it's like you kind of just roll with it, and do your best to support. She's starting to, my first Alita, she's starting now to, hit that toddler stage where she's kind of throwing some random temper tantrums, and we're trying to start, that's the new thing we're trying to navigate with her. And, so that's just kind of adding another layer to everything right now, so yeah, but you just, you do the best you can, you support them. And again, you just kind of roll with it and enjoy it all. A couple weeks back, she woke up at about 4 a.m, and I had to go in there, and she couldn't stop coughing. I tried to give her some water, put her back down. She wasn't having it. So I ended up sleeping on the recliner with her and just enjoying the cuddles, man. Like I'm like, she's never going to be this young, this small again. And she gives the best cuddles right now. Oh my God, it's just amazing. So I'm just, I can't even be mad. No. There's no way I can be mad right now. You just sleep.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's like this is the last window where it's just her, and so you
Totally.
soak up those opportunities. Yeah, it's tough when they're like, "Oh, I want to snuggle," and you're like, "Ah, jeez," but it's like, at some point you're not going to want that, and I'm going to miss it. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yep.
but you talked about like her wanting to run and jump, and I saw you had a video the other day of I know it's a frequent thing, but she comes and visits you at the gym where you train. So talk a little bit about that experience, and obviously she's kind of grown up around the gym a little bit, and she's strong too. I forget what she was carrying, like 10 pounds or something like that, which is like more than half her body weight, just like toting it around like it was nothing. I was like, holy smokes, man.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the experience of having her around, and just kind of what that's been like for you and your wife and your daughter, you feel like.
Yeah, I honestly, like, I've dedicated my life to this career, and I'm extremely passionate about health, fitness, and whatnot, in particular strength training and the power it
Mm,
has to transform people's bodies and minds. And
mm,
to be able to share that now with my daughter is just incredible. She's been coming to the gym with me ever since she was a newborn. I
mm,
brought her here when I was doing some Saturday classes, and she would just kind of hang out and look around. Sometimes, so one of my colleagues would watch her for a bit, but and then she became mobile, and so she's crawling around checking things out, trying to pick up some weights, and eventually now she's picking up some light dumbbells and medicine balls and walking around with them a little bit. And she loves pushing around the barbells. She like the barbell will have a little bit of weight on it, and she can just kind of push it around. And
mm-hmm.
she's pretty proud of herself. She'll look around
Yeah,
and see if we're watching her and whatnot. And
yeah.
so I think it's such a powerful thing, because if you think back to maybe when you were in high school or middle school, or anybody that's listening to this, not everybody was comfortable in gym class. A lot of people were
Yeah.
really uncomfortable with using their bodies, or being made fun of for trying to play a sport or participate in gym class. And maybe it caused a lot of anxiety for them, and they just never felt comfortable doing things like that. And to now be have my daughter coming to the gym from a young age and being comfortable in that sort of environment, where a lot of people are intimidated
Mm,
to start at the gym for fear of being judged or
mm,
ridiculed or whatever the case may be. I think it's such a powerful thing to start as young as you can, or at least get your kids started in an environment like that, with sports or in the
mm.
gym or with some sort of movement in general, so that they feel comfortable and confident doing those sorts of things, and can avoid that anxiety that maybe comes with trying something new as you get older.
100%. So flip that on its head, because you train a lot of general population. You train, I think maybe slightly older than average gym goer population. I think like you have a lot of people who are a little bit further on in their lives, and so I imagine you have quite a few people who are coming in who are new to the experience of lifting, or are uncomfortable, or have had some slightly negative experiences. So, but you have such a cool culture, at least from afar, that I see that you've developed there, where you got people who 70-year-old people in there, back squatting and barbell benching, and doing some, deadlifting, and doing really strong things. How do you help people who are coming in with maybe some hesitations feel comfortable in that environment and overcome that fear or that trepidation that's involved in that?
That's a great question, and I'm glad the culture is kind of coming out in our
Mm,
social media too,
mm,
because that's something I'm really proud of. And I think that's such a huge thing that helps with new people,
yeah.
is they come in here. And so the facility I work at is a private facility, so you can't just come in here and get a membership. It's by appointment. If you're getting physical therapy or one-on-one training or small group training, which is the majority of what we do here. And so creating an environment where it's okay to laugh and have a good time while you're working out. And there's a lot of people here just like your everyday person
Yeah.
that's just in here trying to get healthy. And there's a lot of fun banter back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cracking jokes and they're giving it back to me. And it's just a light, fun environment. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, and I'm really proud of that. So, we have seniors in their 60s, 70s and 80s here doing a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things that would turn a lot of heads to
Yeah.
most casual gym goers. And so I think the culture is a big part of that. And when someone new comes in, I'm usually watching them more closely, introduce myself, and I ask them a little bit about their background, injury history, and so forth. And I give them extra guidance, especially if they're in a one-on-one setting with me. And a lot of people tend to start there and then move into like group training when they gain more confidence in what they're doing. But it's really just a matter of starting people off where they are.
Mm-hmm.
How much weight can you lift? We have no idea. Maybe you've never deadlifted in your life. Maybe you've
Mm-hmm.
never been able to do a push-up. And so we start off easy. See, I think that's one thing a lot of people are afraid of, that their coach is going to be some sort of drill sergeant
Mm-hmm.
yelling in their face, or maybe they're going to make you do a ton of weight on day one, or some crazy workout that's going to leave you out of breath and sore so you can't walk for several days. Because that's something I think that's been ingrained in our
Mm-hmm.
culture, at least. I don't know, maybe not just with the gym, but
Yeah.
especially in the gyms, like leave it all out there in the gym,
Yeah.
whatever. But really, I pride myself in not making people very sore on day one
Yeah.
or day two or day three. I pride myself in, let's start easy and just build you one step at a time. And it works for everybody 100% of the time, no matter their age, their level of experience with lifting weights or any sort of activity. It works every time. And I just guide them along gradually. And yeah, eventually those weights start going up. I start
Mm-hmm.
encouraging some more challenging exercises, perhaps, but it doesn't happen overnight. Most
Yeah.
people that are here, between our small groups with our quote unquote younger population, people between 30 and 50, they've been here for years. I have some people that have been here for 5+ years. And then the senior group, same thing. So you see them do these impressive things, but they've been coming here consistently like clockwork, very, very regimented, with the
Mm-hmm.
occasional vacation perhaps. But that's really where it comes in. We talk a lot about consistency
Mm-hmm.
in fitness, in a lot of social media. If you check my social media or Jeff's social media, consistency is huge, and building those habits over time is really what gets you there. I think you had a great post the other day I really loved, where what was it you said? You said that you gotta refresh my memory on that one.
Which
You were
one were
saying,
you talking about?
I don't know. He was some post.
They're all great, Ren. I don't know what you're
They're all
talking
great,
about.
Jeff. That's why I share so many of them. But you were saying that basically along the lines that this stuff doesn't happen overnight. You build this stuff over time. The more that's what it was. The more short term your approach is, the less effective it is. The more long term approach you look at, something that's consistent, slow, but it's like the water dripping on the rock.
Mm-hmm.
It's just persistent, drip, drip, drip for years, and then eventually it breaks through that stone. And that's the approach we got to take. Everybody takes the approach like, oh, I'm going to work out for a few weeks, then I'll be beach ready for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, especially as you get older, that process takes longer. Keep up with this stuff, and you're gonna enjoy the benefits beyond just looking good on the beach.
100% love that. And one of the indicators that you're a good coach, right? So you talked about like there is a little bit of the stereotype of the coach that's going to get you in there to like beat you into the ground. And they're out there.
Yeah.
They are, and there's a culture around that. And but again, when you shift the focus, I think, away from how fast can I do this versus how long can I do this for, and you have the vision of, I'm going to be doing this till I die. Like, I'm going to be exercising in some form or fashion for the rest of my life. Then it becomes a little bit less of the short term, how quickly can I get this done? How quickly can I get beach ready? But like, no, I want to still be able to move around and feel good in my 60s, 70s, 80s, and feel good in my body. And I do that by starting now. So, what are some of the things as you think about that? Right, obviously, you build up and you have people doing impressive things, and that is, it's a big culture thing when somebody comes in new and they see the 80-year-old doing the barbell deadlift, and they're like, oh well, dang, okay, we move stuff here, like things can be done. Where do you start people typically when they come in, people who haven't done a push-up or done a deadlift or things like that? What are some of the things that you tend to start with that's a good beginning place, and then we could talk about what progression looks like?
Sure. Yeah. So if somebody comes in and, some people day
Mm-hmm.
one, they can start barbell deadlifting. If
Mm-hmm.
if their coordination, their form looks good, some people start off right there. Other people, they may have to learn how to do certain things like positioning their spine, their bodies in certain ways. And so I have a bunch of techniques I use to do that. Will work if they can't do push-ups yet. They'll do some sort of assisted push-ups. We use a lot of bands for like assisted
Yep.
push-ups, chin-ups, and squats even. I got a couple people that are new right now that just started. They've been here for a month and they're both doing assisted squats using bands, and we're already starting to see progress after just a month. I got one lady that's doing a couple body weight ones that a few weeks ago she couldn't do without folding her body in half. Now she's able to almost do it, body weight to below parallel. And this is,
Wow.
she's a woman in her early 50s. And so she's not that old, but she's also not that young either.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing can be huge. But
I want
anyway,
to
so
pause you right there and just draw attention to something that you just said, which is, I think, is super important, which is you said in just a month, right? Like as if it's quick. I think that in and of
mm,
itself is a evidence piece of your perspective and a good perspective on it versus you could also hear that it's been a month and she's still not doing a body weight squat, right? Like that could be the
right.
flip side of it, which is what the typical expression would be. But this is somebody who, like, thinking about what is doing a body weight squat do for your life? Being able to just get up and down off of the toilet without needing help, just
Right.
basic stuff where
Right.
you're like, that's a life changing thing that we can
Mhm.
do in 4 weeks, but we don't do it because it takes 4 weeks. So the
Right.
flip side, again, going back to the longevity of it, I just think that was a really interesting dichotomy of like, that's the mark of a good coach who recognizes like, hey, we're doing this for the long term here. So I just
Mhm.
wanted to draw attention to that you just said.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. Like a lot of times, people don't think that they need this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they think, oh, I can get up and down just fine. I'm fine. I
Mm-hmm.
can walk around. I can do all the things I need to do on a daily basis. I don't need to go to the gym. Well,
Mm-hmm.
there's going to come a day where you can't do that. And the
Mm-hmm.
sooner you can start, the better.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of different reasons for that we can get into later. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, a month and she still hasn't done a bodyweight squat, let alone a loaded squat yet. But that can transform somebody's life, because if you can't get up off the toilet without having to somebody help you up or hold on to some hand railing, that's a body that's at risk for a lot of things, at risk
Mm-hmm.
for diabetes, at risk for dementia, at risk for breaking bones or pulling muscles for no apparent reason. There's a lot of things. You're going down a bad path, and it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna rear its head at some point. And at like my age, we're already starting to see
Mm-hmm.
differences with people that are keeping up with their physical health and people who are not. And I'm 36. I, I'm not that old, but it's art. You can already start to see it with people, and
Mm-hmm.
so this stuff starts much earlier than people think. But
Yep.
getting back to your other question, we start people off with things like that, assisted squats or squats to a box, and over time having them get a little bit lower, assisted push-ups, with a band, and just things. It really depends. Some people, again, can come in day one and bust out some body weight push-ups, no problems. Like, okay, well, let's see what else you can do. Can you do more? Can you add some weight onto your back? I have some people doing that right now. The guy with Parkinson's busting out push-ups after class every day. He's already done a full workout. He's an animal, And so this stuff, yeah, it can happen to anybody. You just got to be willing to take the first step, get in, get started. You're not like all the stuff you see on social media, those people, they didn't start there. They didn't start there. You're just seeing the end result. You're seeing the highlight reel. You're not seeing the hours and years and decades of work they're putting into this stuff. That's why sometimes it's good to see people post like them maybe failing on some exercise or some sort of compilation of them getting there. But yeah, you don't see that stuff on, you're not going to do that stuff on day one, at least not the majority of people.
Well, it was an interesting thing that I think the summation of this is, you said originally, like, you start people with something easy, but easy is relative. And
exactly.
So it's start where you're at. And I think that that's a big challenge for a lot of people, especially when somebody coming in who might have that trepidation, which is, hey, this needs to feel easy, this needs to feel doable, but there is still that comparison with social media. That's a big obvious thing as well. But even with a person standing next to me or in the gym next to me or in the class next to me, my person all the time that I use all the time is Heidi. Heidi's, been training with me for 5 years, and she's been training long before that. And Heidi just does Heidi things. She just does crazy stuff, and you're like, holy smokes. And so she kind of sets the standard for class, and it's easy for somebody coming in to compare themselves to Heidi and not recognize where they're at. So as you bring somebody in, starting with something that's easy for them or starting where they're at, how do you make them feel like this is enough for where you are? You know what I mean? Like, even though you're not doing the thing that the person next to you is doing, this is still good enough. How do you kind of create that mindset shift in them that's not just a hey, it's a good place to start, but it's like, no, this is exactly what you need right now.
Yeah. Well, a lot of experimentation, I don't always get it right on day one. Sometimes I give somebody maybe more than they can do, and okay, that wasn't right. We need to back off. That's on me. That's on the coach, right? Yeah. That's not on them. So I try to emphasize that, like, that's my fault. We need to adjust. You got to be willing to pivot and try different things until you find the right thing. And that's where experience comes in as a coach. I've been doing this for 13 years now. And so again, just like somebody new to the gym, like on day one, I didn't know. I just was, I'd read some books, and and all of a sudden now I got somebody squatting in front of me that maybe has a knee replacement or something like that. And it's like, what do you do now? That book is useless. Right. So you gotta be willing to throw that away and learn new things and evolve. And, over the years, just come up with different ways to help people like that. And so I do some trial and error with the person in front of me, whatever their case is, figure out where they start, and then encourage them, whatever they do, whether it's day one or day 100. Like, okay, that was great. Whether it's like, okay, we had to back off, we had to give you more assistance on that push up, or we had to put less weight on the bar for your squat. But like, that form was way better. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Nice job. And they might still feel a little sad that they had to go down, but they still feel like, okay, I accomplished something today. And I think, that's another part of coaching that I just love is these people come in here and maybe they have a job they don't like. Maybe things are really tough at home. And this is the one part of their day where they can escape from some of that stuff and focus on themselves. And so as a coach, it's my job to not only teach them how to exercise, but to feel good, feel comfortable, and feel like they're going somewhere with this. That's that's one of my favorite parts of this job is like I get to be the best part of someone's day in some
Yeah.
cases. Some people come in here. One of the new ladies recently, like, I've been looking forward to this all day, and I'm like, hell yeah, that's awesome. You know,
That's
like I
awesome.
love that. I love that. It feels good for me, but it feels good for them too. And you know, I get to literally impact somebody's life, whether it's just,
Mm,
you know, they're coming to this place where I feel good, I feel safe, and this is my happy place. Or,
mm,
you know, my pants are fitting a little looser, or I'm able to get off the toilet without assistance, whatever the case is. That's
mm.
exciting stuff. That's powerful stuff.
Yeah, love that. I don't know if you can hear my dog in the background. Can you?
I can. He's excited too, man. He's pumped up about
Yeah,
this.
he's pumped. He like never barks during my podcast episodes, so
Let's go
not
for a run, Dad.
not sure what's going on with that, but that's wild. Dude, I loved everything about that. I'm just smiling. If you're not watching the video here, I'm just sitting here smiling because man, like Ren's such a good coach. I don't know if like
Thank you.
you can just tell, right? Like that's the mark, like when you are the best part of somebody's day, right? If you dread going to work out with your coach, get a new coach.
Absolutely.
Get a new coach.
Absolutely.
Like it should be a positive place for you. If you're not getting encouraged for the things that you're doing, get a new coach. Like that should be how it feels when you're doing this. And so kind of going one step further, the other piece of this is I didn't realize you'd been doing this for 13 years. I knew you'd been doing it for a while, but like that's also the marker, right? So Ren has watched, I don't know, probably 1,000 different people or more train in that period of time, you know? And so the experience of watching 1,000 bodies move cannot be replicated by the 22-year-old who just took a course over the weekend. You know what I mean? And so if you have, there's nothing that can replace that experience in terms of making you like Ren can just be like, all right, we're gonna make this pivot. You know, we're gonna make this move to this thing and get you doing something that you can do. And so I want to, you know, just do a quick pause and do the plug for. Listen, I coach online. I still coach in person for this reason because there is nothing quite so. There's nothing that quite can replicate coaching in person, and I think Ren will attest to that. Like in a world that's increasingly online, don't skimp on finding somebody who can, especially if you're dealing with any sort of injuries or trepidation for exercising. Go find yourself a coach.
Yeah, agreed. I've tried doing some of the online stuff. It's just not the same. You know, I have one person that's a virtual client of mine. We train over Zoom from his house because he lives like 40 minutes away, and it's just easier for him. But yeah, you just can't replicate it. I liken it to listening to an album on Spotify or
Mm-hmm.
wherever you go versus going live.
Mm.
It is not even close.
Yep.
So if you haven't been to see your favorite band live, go do it. It is incredible. I've
Yeah.
seen some of my favorite bands live, the pyro, the feeling, the excitement in the crowd, and seeing them physically in front of you and having them interact with you in between the songs.
Mm-hmm.
There's no comparison whatsoever. And I don't think there ever will be. And I feel like it's the same way with coaching. There's a different level, there's a different kind of bond, different kind of experience.
Yeah.
And the energy is different and you just feel good. You feel like you're more a part of something, especially here where
Small
we
group
do
stuff.
predominantly group stuff. Now you're a part of a community. And I'm really proud. We have a lot of great people here and I get to be a part of that. And the people that come into the fold, there's some of them have some mental health struggles. Some of them are neighbors and they're all supportive of each other. And I feel like I'm a small part of that, but really they've made the connections with each other
Mm-hmm.
organically. And yeah, so there really is no comparison. I
Yeah.
think I've tried the online stuff. I think it's cool. I think you can still replicate it to some degree,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it is a different animal for sure.
Yeah. Well, even like one of my online clients goes to one of Ren's small group classes once a week. Is like she can do the
Yep.
one day a week is the one day that she can make with her work schedule, and like it's one of the coolest things for me when I have a client who's like, "Oh, I'm going to go do classes." It's like, all right, I got to figure out what your class looks like. But when she's like, "Oh, I'm working out with Ren," I'm like, "Oh, I know you're good to go." Right? Like I know that she's training really, really well, and then it's in and so then we do, she does one other day that she can do at home because that's what works for her schedule. And we might add another one here, but the idea of having, and then also I know that every time that she goes back to Ren's, even if I'm, prescribing something, right? Like I know that she's going to be having eyes on her for every, for most reps, and she's going to be encouraged and being pushed and all of these other things in that environment that that makes her training with me that much better. And all of the nutrition stuff and the mindset stuff and the lifestyle stuff that we're doing is just being accentuated in that environment. So there is a lot of value in just having that community and that culture around you where it's like, hey, this is the best part of my day.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That client, by the way, just hit a couple awesome
She told
PRs
me
the
that
other
this
day.
morning. I talked with her. I had my call with her earlier today, and she was like, "I hit 15-pound PRs on bench and squat," and I was like,
Yeah,
"At a
she was
girl."
on fire. And you
Yeah,
should have seen she was like 9 months pregnant the last time she
yeah,
hit some PRs, and I was
yeah,
like, that's really impressive. Like you just
yeah,
got this big belly, baby's about to come out, she's squatting. I was like,
yeah.
yeah, that's
She's an
awesome.
animal. Yeah, that's so fun. So let's kind of get into this piece of it because, again, I think with 13 years of strength training experience, you, a wealth of knowledge for what makes a quality strength training program. So there's the start where you're at, obviously, but as we think about building a strength program, right? So obviously, first step would be to go have a good, find a good coach. Um, is a really great strategy. But if I'm building my own and or testing to see whether or not, not like testing, but like, listen, do I have a coach that's just kind of throwing some random exercises together, or do I have somebody who's helping me get stronger? And again, I don't want to like put other coaches up or down, right? But there is a reality to like what is strength training and what's working out with weights, and there's a difference
Mhm.
between the two.
Right.
And so in terms of strength training, which has a lot of benefits that we've talked about on this podcast, which is, hey, we're going to get obviously stronger bones, all of these types of things, but also in terms of body composition, building muscle, losing fat, all of these types of things. Strength training is right up there with anything. So what, and again, I know this is a broad question and we'll dive down into the minutia, but if you're thinking from a 30,000 foot level, what are some of the hallmarks of a quality strength training program?
Yeah, so like we touched on earlier, like figure out where you need to start from. That's huge
Mm-hmm.
because then you're going to be able to be consistent and build off from wherever you're starting. And the second part is progressive overload. This is something that I failed to use for a long time, and I think a lot of other coaches do. You need to be able to gauge your progress in some way, whether it's adding more weight to the bar or doing a couple more push-ups or going another day a week. There's got to be some, or measuring your body fat or whatever, like whatever your goals is really what will drive that. But I think always keeping track of like how strong you're getting will help with all the others. So progressive overload is basically you're just increasing the difficulty of your exercise over, you know, over the years, the months, the years, the decades, whatever. No one's going to be able to progress forever. There's probably going to come a point where, you kind of level out, or maybe you feel like, hey, I'm strong enough for the things I need to do and I can maintain there. There might be some people there that just they're satisfied with that. That's fine. I try to continue having people hit new things or do new things because it's exciting. It makes it fun, and it kind of helps create that culture we talked about earlier. So those two things are probably the biggest ones in terms of making sure you're going to get something out of what you're doing. Because if you start too hard, could end up getting really sore. People, some people that are new to working out don't feel good being sore, or you might get injured perhaps. You might just feel really defeated and stop, whatever the case may be. So, you got to understand your body, go get an assessment from a coach or see a physical therapist if you have some sort of injury, or your doctor if you have some sort of heart condition. Make sure that your body is ready for what you're going to do. But yeah, find yourself a coach that understands those concepts, that maybe has some experience. Especially, I really think that more advanced coaches are better equipped to train people that are older, because they've seen more things. I mean, when I first started, I wanted to be this awesome, like, football strength conditioning coach. That was my thing. Right. And then over time I learned, training the general population, as we call it, like just everyday people like myself, is so much fun. I love it. I fell in love with it. And that I kind of lost my train of thought, but like I fell in love with that thing. And but it's the same. You train people the same way as an athlete. Like there's got to be, you got to start where you're at, and then you got to progressively overload. And that's the way we do it. The body adapts to exercise the same way, no matter your age. It might just be a little bit slower. You might have to do some things a little differently because your injury history is different, perhaps. But all in all, it's all the same.
Yes. So thinking about progressive overload, because I do think that this is an interesting concept, and it's maybe not as common or taken out of context, right? But this is, again, the distinction between a strength training program and working out with weights is progressive overload. That is the distinction between the two. And working out with weights is not a bad thing, right? That's your Peloton workouts. Those are fine things, not saying it's bad things, but those are more cardio. It's cardio with some weights. You can build some muscle, but again, it's going to be more challenging. The idea of progressive overload is I'm getting a little bit better from where I am to where, to the next step, whatever that looks like. And so in that same way, because I want to revisit training like an athlete here in a little bit, because I think that that's super important.
Sure.
But as I think about progressive overload, because I think the most common ones are the ones that you talked about, like, hey, I'm going to do more weights, or I'm going to do more reps, or I'm going to do more volume in terms of times that I come to the gym, right? I'm going to add more to what I'm doing. What are some ways that, because you're right, like at a certain point, most people are like, I don't know if I want to add more weight to the bar. Like I'm at the point in my life where I'm like, I don't care to lift any more weight. Not because I think it's bad, but I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like I'm good. I don't really need to deadlift 500 pounds. Like I've done 450 and I feel good about it, for 5 reps when Luca was yelling in my face. Like I have no desire to really go much higher than that. And so, but how do you progressively overload, particularly with an older population or something like that, where it's like, nah, I don't know if the risk reward is worth it to just like, hey, we're going to do a bunch more load on this, or it's like, no, I'm good with that level of strength. How do you progressively overload when it's not the just, hey, we'll do more reps or we'll do more weight?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a number of ways you can do it. I mean, you can mess around with the tempo or the pace at which you lift. You can slow things down, making it more challenging. You can try new, maybe more challenging variations of the exercise, perhaps. You can up the frequency of your workouts, do them more often. I think it comes down to like, what are you looking to get out of it?
Mm-hmm.
If you're, like for you, if you're not, you don't want to lift any heavier, then maybe you play around with different rep schemes that you haven't
Mm-hmm.
done before, or maybe you try doing accommodating resistance, or, maybe you, yeah, again, mess around with the tempo. Like I got a guy right now, he's in his 50s, and, he wanted to lose some weight, but keep his muscle mass on. And so we continued strength training, but he doesn't, he has no interest in hitting new PRs anymore. Like we used to do
Mm-hmm.
that, but now it's just a matter of, okay, let's just try to maintain your strength. Maybe every once in a while we'll hit a PR for where you're at right now, sort of thing. But mostly, we're just kind of sticking to around the same general area, maintaining his muscle mass and making sure, his metabolic rate is good, is his function, being able, he spent like 2 years building a rock wall around his house,
Mm-hmm.
making sure he could move some of those rocks around by hand if needed or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But, just making sure that his quality of life is good. So yeah, I think, you can kind of coast along and continue hitting those same weights. Some days, or sorry, so for several months we might do higher volume training, sets of 10, sets of 12 on his deadlift perhaps, and then you kind of cycle back and do a few months of higher intensity or higher weights for a period of time. Sets of 5, 3, 1, and then we just kind of flip flop back and forth between those things. And we've been able to, we've had a lot of success with that the last few years I've trained him.
Yeah. I love, yeah, the idea of there's more ways to make things difficult besides just that, right? You can make the mechanics. You
Yes.
said something in there, accommodating resistance. What is that?
Oh,
As you, yeah, that was. I don't know if I've heard it used that way. So like genuinely curious.
oh,
What do you talk about that way? I might
oh.
know what it is, but I just haven't heard it phrased that way.
Okay. Yeah. That's when you'd like use like bands or chains when you're
Oh yeah,
squatting.
gotcha.
Yeah. So for those of you that have no clue, like if you're say doing a barbell squat, you would attach a couple of bands that are anchored to the floor
Yeah.
to your bar. And the idea behind it is as you come up higher on the squat, it gets easier and easier. Well, now what happens is you got all this tension on a band. It gets lighter on the way down, but as you come back up, it gets harder and harder. So it's just, it's a novel way to,
Mm-hmm.
change things up if you're looking to just have a little more variety in your
Mm-hmm.
workouts, or maybe bust through a plateau perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I don't remember what I call it, but it's just like, different. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Accommodating resistance. But,
That's what
um,
us meatheads in the
yeah,
powerlifting
yeah.
community call it.
There we go. So that's,
those are
I
those are
haven't,
my people.
yeah, I haven't dabbled into that side of things, but I love that, right? Because of the different ways that we can increase difficulty. Um, that's not just let me add more weight. For
Yeah,
sure.
there's
So like,
plenty of other ways you can do it. And I used to be
yeah.
this guy that was like, it's all about the weight. It's all about the
Mm-hmm.
weight, and after 13 years, you get a little wiser,
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm not looking, I'm not looking to hurt anybody, but the
Mm-hmm.
cool thing about it is you can continue to go up in weight for years and years.
Yeah.
You can continue to gain more strength for
Mm-hmm.
a long period of time. And if that's something you want to do, I mean, that's one of my secrets to success and helping people stay with me for a long period of time. Like most people that come in to me stay here. They're not usually here for just a couple weeks or a few months
Yeah.
generally. Because like, okay, we're working on our squats, we're going to try to hit a new PR this time. And, you know, again, some of these people, started off from ground zero. They haven't had any experience doing this, and you can just continue getting stronger and stronger for years, and put some muscle on, and and change your life really.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's part of it, is the excitement of like, oh, I did more this time. That's so cool. A lot of people enjoy the excitement behind that. And I
Mm-hmm.
get amped up. I get amped up about it. Like right
Mm-hmm.
now we're going, we're peaking right before testing some
Mm-hmm.
of our barbell lifts and stuff. And I get fired up. They get excited. They get we have a PR bell in here. They get to ring the
Mm-hmm.
bell every time they hit a new weight, and everybody claps and cheers for them. It just goes with that positive reinforcement of doing what we're doing.
Well, there's something really cool about that in terms of consistency too, which is you start to embrace the process and the wins
Mm,
along the way versus the big macro wins. And so, like, oftentimes when somebody starts a program, they have like a big grandiose goal.
mhm.
And oftentimes that goal is going to take a long time to get there. But being able to celebrate wins along the way that are process oriented wins can really help us to stick with it. And that's indicated by the fact that people stick with you for a long period of time. Also an indicator of being a good coach is that you can celebrate the process a little bit more when we apply this idea of progressive overload. The metric of success is not, do I feel like I'm going to die at the end of that workout? Because that's the only metric of success of like, or we use metrics of like, oh, I sweat a lot, or I'm breathing really heavy, or my Apple Watch says I burned a bunch of calories that workout. Like, those are harder things to quantify and measure and track versus like, I'm getting stronger. There's no doubt about that. And so it's a quantifiable, hey, I am actually doing this better than I was before.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, some of those things you said, like sweating or my heart rate gets up high or my calories, like just because something's difficult doesn't necessarily mean it's
Mm,
productive in any way. Right.
yeah.
Like when I'm lifting really heavy, when I'm doing sets of like 5 or less, I don't sweat that much.
Hmm.
I might not even get that sore really. I've been doing this for so long. It takes something new or something ridiculous to get me sore. I don't get sore anymore. And so you gotta start looking at other things, and like you said, get those small wins along the way, because that big goal you have, that's going to take longer than you think. We've been brainwashed, I think,
Mm,
into thinking that it's going to take me 30 days or it's going to take me
mm,
90 days to lose all this weight or get this level of strength, whatever it is. But really, you got to be in this for much, the long haul, and you got to fall in love with the process. You don't have to love strength training. You don't have to be a gym rat necessarily, but you got to be able to at least celebrate some of those small wins along the way. That's where that's one of the other things that comes along with progressive overload, is like, and tracking your workouts, by the way.
mm,
Like, get a notebook or something
mm,
and track your workouts so you know what you did last week or 6 months ago. So now you
mm,
can go, well, okay, that last time I did this much weight for a set of 10. Let me see if I can get 5 more pounds out of that now.
mm,
And then you set the weights down. You got your 10 reps, and you get to celebrate that. You can tell your kids or tell your
mm.
spouse or your gym partner, whatever, and celebrate those things, because those count. Those are great. They might not have a direct link to your long-term goal. Like for a lot of people is like fat loss, weight loss, whatever, but it's one more step in that direction. It's a little more muscle gained, and it's still something to be really proud of.
Absolutely. When we think about, again, the idea of like, there's just because something was hard doesn't mean it was productive. I love that phrasing of that. Yeah, just because something's hard doesn't mean it's good. Like Mike Boyle always says, I could take you out bat and beat you with a baseball bat for an hour and you'd be really, really sore. But that doesn't mean that you got any better. And it also doesn't mean that you want to come back and see me. So
Mm-hmm.
soreness is not necessarily an indicator of a good workout. As Ren talked about, sweatiness is not necessarily an indicator of a good workout. What your Apple Watch says is not necessarily an indicator of a good workout in terms of what is coming of it. And so obviously measuring what you're doing there is, um, but also that's another indicator of, again, I think that this is a good, like, hey, check marks on, hey, what makes a good coach, and a good strength training workout is not just you can see the link from where you are and, hey, I got a little bit better, and it's not just I'm tired, and we're not just, the goal is not just, hey, I'm gonna feel tired. And the other one is, it's not just about PRs, right? Like personal
Right.
records. It's not just about more, more, more. You have a coach that listens to your goals and recognizes, hey, I might want to pivot. Like if I had a coach right now who was like, hey, we're gonna try to max out your deadlift. I'm like, I don't know if you heard me on what I'm trying to do. Like I don't want to, and I'm not going to. So hear what I'm trying to say. Some of it's you got to trust the process, but some of it also is like I've done this long enough to know, like, hey, what's going to make sense for me and what isn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that knowing yourself too and advocating for yourself. If you got a coach that's trying to push you into doing something that you don't want to do, that yeah, it might be time to get a different coach. Look in another direction. I don't try to force anybody to do anything they're not comfortable with. But I do try to, eventually get them to do some things that are a little more challenging, whether that looks like, okay, we're not going to add weight, but we're going to try to maybe bang out some more reps. Or maybe they're nervous to try that extra weight, but they find out that they can. And that's another big piece of this is overcoming,
Mm-hmm.
overcoming the weight on the bar, so that you take that out in your life and you use that strength, that mental fortitude to overcome other things in your life. It's uncomfortable when you're lifting weights, right? Like it's not comfortable, especially if you're new to it. That's, it's scary. It's uncomfortable. You don't know how to move your body right, perhaps. And it just feels like you're out of place, and putting yourself in that situation over and over again in the gym can help. I absolutely believe this can help you tackle difficult situations outside of the gym as well. And, it's been a huge help for me in my own mental struggles. I've struggled with mental health, my whole life, and I've had to overcome a lot of different things, and being at the gym has helped me, just like anybody else that comes in here. It's like my happy place. I can work out with a group or I can work out alone. Either way, I'm enjoying it, and I'm seeing myself, I'm seeing the growth, and that feels good. And it's just helped to, again, help me build more of that mental and physical fortitude as well. As I get older, and as I come up on new things in my life, like having children now, and whatever comes next, I know I'll be able to handle that. I'll have the confidence and the wherewithal to handle it.
Yeah. Prove to yourself, I can do hard things.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. I think there's a place for that. You don't
yeah.
have to, like we talked about earlier, we don't have, you don't have to do a hard workout for it to be productive, but I think there's a time and a place to do it on occasion, to see what you can do and overcome something, but it's not an everyday thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, but it is the idea of I'm going to do a hard thing that's a little bit harder than last time. It doesn't have to
Right.
be the hardest thing I've ever done, but it
Right.
is like I am getting better, and then you have moments where you're like, "Oh, the hard thing might be I'm still showing up." There's something
Absolutely.
about the gym that is a reflection of it's a simple way. I love how you phrased it, is like I'm willingly putting myself through something difficult regularly because lifting weights is hard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willingly doing that, and I'm coming out on the other side. And so when there are things that I'm unwillingly faced with, I can show myself, because I've shown myself through history, that I can overcome hard things, doing things that are difficult, because I'm practicing the ability to do hard things that my body doesn't want to do.
Yep.
And that's what working out does.
Yeah. You're working those mental muscles. The barbell logic folks coined the phrase voluntary hardship, and I think that's a great it's a great way to put it. Yeah, you're voluntarily doing these things, and you're building you're building this mental and physical fortitude to be able to handle more stuff. And it's a profound thing that you can develop if you're able to fall in love with the process. And like you said, it's like you gradually do the harder things. It doesn't have to be a huge jump
Mm-hmm.
forward in whatever you're doing. It's little by little. It's that water dripping on the stone again.
Mm-hmm.
Just little by little. You're doing a little more, and then maybe you hang out at that same spot for a little while, and then you try a little more. It's not like every day you're going up, or maybe, like you said, maybe you're going through something really hard in your life right now. I got a couple clients in that situation right now. It always seems like I have one,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, but they're they remain consistent. I'm like, okay, they tell me like, I'm just going through some stuff right now. Maybe they share it with me, maybe they don't. And I'm like, okay, let's let's go a little easier. Just get the work in. Cut the reps in half, or go lighter than I had planned. I don't care. I just want you to get in here. I want you to move a little. I want you to feel good. I want you to leave feeling a little better, hopefully, than when you came in. I'm not, again, like, you got to be willing to pivot. As a coach, maybe somebody doesn't want to push themselves really
Mm-hmm.
hard. Maybe they need a slower approach, or maybe, again, they're going through something hard and it's not the time. It's just it's all they can do to get in to the gym, and you gotta support them and guide them through that.
Mm-hmm.
And a little side note on that, but that's what I do with my daughter. Is I support her, and I feel like I've learned as a coach, doing this for over a decade now, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's helped me with being a parent as well.
Mm-hmm.
Little side note there, but I don't push her too hard, but I do encourage her to try some things that, maybe she's a little uncomfortable with. She's so young, but there's already some things that she's a little, like, she was scared of. It's just a funny little story, but she was a little scared of the shower head for a while.
Yeah.
I'd give her a bath, and I turned it on. She did not like that, so I was like, oh, we're going to put that aside for a while. And, I started taking it down, like, oh, look, it's harmless. I didn't turn it on,
Mm-hmm.
did that a few times, turn it on. She watched it, and she was like, all done, turn it off. Okay, cool. Do that for a little longer. And now she puts her hand in it. She loves it,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's a small little example,
Mm-hmm.
but that's something that anybody could do with anything.
Mm. Oh man, I mean, going to the kid thing, I think that I've noticed this a little bit, or quite a bit actually, with parenting. But the idea that you have here, which is, I'm going to encourage you to do what you're capable of, but in a safe place. So the phrase that I've like caught myself saying with my kids, and I also say in the gym, is when people are like, "Hey, or I'm sure you say this too, is like, want to try a personal best, or hey, do you think I can do 40 pounds? I've been doing 35." It's like, yeah, you can try it. I think you can, but I'm here if you need me. I'll spot you. I'm here if you need me. Like, it's a safe place. Like, when my kids want to try something new, and Levi's like, "Hey, Daddy, I want to walk down the stairs, by myself." And he's okay. You got it. I'm here if you need me, though. Like, I'm encouraging you to do that which I think you're capable of, but I'm doing it in a place that's safe for you to recognize that you're not going to nail it every single time, and that you can try it just like you did with your daughter. It's like, hey, we're going to try this little thing, and oh, that feels good, and Daddy's here. He's going to keep me safe. And the idea of, it's not going to be, there's something to the embracing the mundane, for lack of a better word, or the slowness of the process, that you're not going to hit a personal record every time, but the consistency is the win, right? Like, I showed up and I did the thing for the person who's going through something. It's like, just check the box some days, because for every great day, personal record day there's going to be a 1 out of 10 day where you're like, listen, the win was making it through the door today. And there's something so powerful about living in the consistency piece of it, and recognizing that there's not a stop date to this, but there is something satisfying about I checked the box. Because, like, thinking about fat loss as an example, the scale doesn't go down every day, right? And nutrition doesn't, it's not wicked satisfying to be like, I hit my calories today, like, go me, like, it's not quite as sweet as, like, you know what, I did the workout even though I didn't want to today. I went to the gym even though I didn't want to today, and it was hard, but I overcame it. Like, I overcame my desire to not do the hard thing, and to see that carry forward into so many other things. And that's what happens with our kids, right? They see that when I do it, and the results of the action in a safe place, I take the action in a way that I feel encouraged to take and feels safe but somewhat challenging. I see the result, and then I feel more motivated to take more action. And that's how that consistency rolls on.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned that on your
Yeah.
social media a while back. Is like, I'm here if you need me. I'm here to support you. Go for it. And like you said, they might not always work out, but that, I mean, the fact that you tried, the fact that you went for it, that's a win right there. Next time, maybe you'll get it. Maybe it'll take you a few times. Again, it's like you said, the consistency, the persistence, continuing to show up, even on that 1 out of 10 day. You just get in, you do a light lift, or you do a short, easy run, whatever it is. And you move on with your life, because that's just going to happen. You got to be willing to pivot on those days. Now, as a parent now, and Jeff, this, but there's some more of those 1 to 3 out of 10 days now, right? Like, my sleep isn't good, or, I'm stressed out or whatever. And, okay, today we're just going to roll with whatever I can do. And some days you end up having actually a great workout despite those things. And that feels good, but it's still, even if that doesn't happen, you still feel good that, okay, I showed up, I did what I could, and tomorrow's another day.
The process versus the outcome. This has been a big thing for me, and especially with kids, right? Like, I'm proud of you for trying. I'm proud of you for doing it. Not necessarily like you can be excited with the outcome, but like, proud of you for trying that food, even though you didn't eat it. I'm proud of you for trying it. I'm proud of you for trying to, like, I think you could probably try to move that. Like, try it, see what happens. I think you can maybe climb up there or do that thing. Try it. Oh, you didn't do it, but wasn't it so cool that you tried? The idea, going back to earlier, of like, when somebody can't do maybe something that, hey, let's back that off and do it, but that's it. That's the form I'm looking for. Like, that's the process, right? Like, embracing the wins in the process of trying and doing an aspect of it well. And sometimes the process is, I just showed up. I just kept showing up. And that's how, like, 90 days of strength training doesn't necessarily take you from, I can't do a body weight push-up, to I'm doing sets of 10, but a year could, potentially a couple of years could. And that's where I think people shorten the runway, or the timeline on it too much. And it hinders them from seeing the progress that they really want to.
Right. Yeah. 90 days is a good start. That's all it is. It's a good start. 30 days, you're not even scratching the surface. Like 90 days, like, okay, we're starting to develop a habit. You're maybe, other people are starting to notice changes in you. Maybe you're starting to notice some changes, but in the grand scheme of things, we're just getting started. And you know what? Hopefully that's exciting to you. Anybody that's listening, hopefully it's like, 90 days, man, I'm really building something here. I'm really laying a good foundation of what I'm going to do the rest of my life, and taking care of myself, building some muscle, getting toned, building my bone density up, being able to do yard work as a 70-year-old, or get
Mm-hmm.
around well in your 80s, or play with your grandchildren, get on the floor with them, pick them up, throw them around, go hiking with your family, whatever it is. That's, I think that's a very powerful thing. Weight loss is exciting and it's good. I think it's good for anybody that needs it.
Mm-hmm.
But you start looking at some of these other benefits that come along with it, and that I think that's the stuff that keeps you with it.
Absolutely. Weight loss is one thing, but it might take you 6 months, a year, something like that to lose the weight, but you got to keep it off for the rest of your life. And
Mm-hmm.
the things that you do to keep it off are a lot of the things that you do to lose it. But we want to keep that progress, and the things that keep it off, right? You need more things along the way. And it's not about what you can do for 12 weeks or even 12 months. It's like, what can we do for 12 years and beyond? Like 90 days is a good start. I love that. It's like 90 days is a good start. What are you going to be doing when you're 90? That's the question. That's the
Mm-hmm.
question. And
Tell you
it,
where I'll be. I'll be
yeah.
in the weight room with my daughters. That's where
Yes.
I'll be.
Friggin' love it. Ren, man, this was so good. A full, like, well over an hour after some technical issues to get it going, but I just, this was so good. And yeah, I loved having you on. I love your perspective on it. So many gems in here. If you don't follow Ren, I'll let him kind of plug his stuff, and then also for anybody who's local to him, I'll let you kind of give some info for coming to Strength Train with Ren.
Sure. Yeah. So if you can follow me on Instagram at Coach Ren. That's RENFTS. And I'm also on Facebook, Fortitude Training Systems, and on YouTube. Check out fortitudetrainingsystems.net. I have a blog there. The website is still a work in progress, but the blog is where it's at there. So
Yeah.
check that out. I got some good information, especially, hey, if you're a beginner, you're starting with no experience, you need to start at, as some people say, I'm starting from zero, or I'm starting with less than zero, whatever that means. I got some really accessible exercises in there. Check out some of those articles. And yeah, if you're local, if you're in Vermont, in Chittenden County, I'm in Essex Junction at a local facility called On Track. And like I said earlier, we have physical therapy here. We have small group training and one-on-one training as well. And the culture is fun. And even if you're not local, please feel free to reach out to myself or Jeff. We can certainly point you in the right direction,
Yeah.
where how to find a good coach or someone online, perhaps.
For sure. Yeah, I tell people that all the time. Is like, listen, if you want somebody in person, I can find somebody in person for you. Even if I don't know them, I know somebody who knows somebody. And I think Ren is the same way, right? Like you're in this industry long enough, you make enough connections, like you can find that. And absolutely, if you're local, I don't know if I like registered that you were in Essex Junction, because my old business partner's in Essex Junction, so I'm gonna make sure I might get a client for you. I don't
Okay.
know if I realized that, but him and
Small world. I mean,
him and his wife are over there, so I'm gonna see if I can point him in your
yeah.
direction and get him over there to hang out with you. But Ren, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And yeah, make sure you go check out Ren. Just one of the best guys in the industry for sure. And you can check out his cute daughter number 2 to come, working out, and then also just some of the really impressive stuff that he has his clients doing on in his classes, and I'll post that. It's just really kind of fun to watch. So appreciate him coming on. And if you want to connect with Ren, please do. And then like, rate, review, subscribe. I don't know all the things that you can do, but do all those things that you would do as you listen to this, and send me a message if you have questions, or send Ren a message if you have some questions there as well. But have a good one.
I
Thanks for
also have a
listening.
pretty awesome
Yeah.
podcast with
Yes.
Jeff on it as well. We had a fun episode together.
Yes.
So check that out, Fortitude Training Podcast as well. And yeah, check out our interview.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was a lot of fun. And yeah, Ren, great podcast as well. So check all those things out, and appreciate it. And we'll talk with you soon.